Hello everybody and welcome to English Speaking Country Show. Today we are going to present you the South Africa country.
First, we are going to speak about history. The history of South Africa has been dominated by communication and conflict of several ethnic groups. The Aboriginal Khoikhoi people have lived in the region for millennia. Most of the people, however, trace their history through immigration since. Indigenous Africans in South Africa are descendants of immigrants from further in South Africa who entered what are the confines of the country roughly 1,700 years ago. White South Africa are descendants of later European settlers, mainly from Netherlands and Britain.
The colors are descended at least in part from all these groups, as well as from slaves from Madagascar, East Africa and the then East Indies. There are many South Africans of Indian and Chinese origin, descendants of laborers who arrived in the 19th and early 20th century. South Africa was under an official system of racial segregation and white minority rule from 1948, known as apartheid, until its first egalitarian election on 27 April 1994, when the ruling African National Congress came to dominate the politics of the country.
And now, let's speak about the culture and the language. Black African culture is most obviously known for its art, dance, and music. These have been profoundly influenced by more than 2 centuries of colonialism and the work of Christian missionaries. Today, the song reflects a number of different styles such as gospel and rock, but even a strong flavor, styles such as Kwaito, Mbube, and Kwela incorporate indigenous sounds.
Art is also becoming a fusion of traditional and modern. Artists draw inspiration from the masks, statues, and figurines of tribal culture, but also employ Western techniques and mediums. Art forms such as dancing and textiles perhaps retain the strongest links to traditional black culture because they express identity and shared history. Gumboot dancing was born in the mines of South Africa, where black Africans were given Wellingtons to protect their feet and communicated in the dark by slapping and tooting their boots. And now let's talk about the languages.
South Africa has 11 official languages: Afrikaans, English, Ndebele, Northern Soto, Soto, Swazi, Tswana, Tsonga, Venda, Xhosa, and Zulu. Fewer than 2% of the South Africans speak a first language other than an official one. Most of the South Africans can speak more than one language. Dutch and English were the first official languages of South Africa from 1910 to 1925. Afrikaans was added as part of Dutch in 1935. Dutch was replaced by Afrikaans when South Africa became a republic in 1961. Dutch was dropped in 1984, so between 1984 and 1999, South Africa had two languages, English and Afrikaans.
The main language of government is English, even if South Africans often take pride in using indigenous languages for any purpose. Afrikaans also features prominently in commerce together with English, as the languages with the highest number of fluent speakers are Afrikaans and English.
And what about sport, Chloe?
Sports in South Africa have a passionate following, although they remain largely divided along ethnic lines. Football is the most popular sport in South Africa, particularly amongst blacks who constitute the majority of the population. The national football team is nicknamed Bafana Bafana. South Africa hosted the 2010 FIFA World Cup, the first one hosted in Africa.
Cricket is the second most popular sport in South Africa and is traditionally the sport of British diaspora and Indian South Africa communities, although it is now followed by members of all races. The national cricket team is nicknamed the Proteas.
Rugby union is also very popular. especially among persons of Afrikaner descent. The national rugby union team, the Springboks, have enjoyed considerable success since the early 20th century, including two Rugby World Cup victories in 1995 and 2007.
There are other popular sports like boxing, hockey, tennis, golf, surfing, netball, and running. South Africa was absent from international sport for most of the apartheid era due to sanctions, but started competing globally after the country-wide electorate voted in a referendum in favor of negotiated statement of the apartheid question. And now we are going to speak about the movie Invictus.
Invictus is a 2009 biographical sports drama film directed by Clint Eastwood and starring Morgan Freeman and Matt Damon. The story is based on the John Carlin book Playing the Enemy, Nelson Mandela and the game that made a nation about the events in South Africa before and during the 1995 Rugby World Cup, which was hosted in that country following the dismantling of apartheid.
Freeman and Damon play respectively the South African president Nelson Mandela and Frans Sapina, the captain of the South Africa rugby union team, nicknamed the Springboks. Invictus was released in the United States on 11th December 2009.
The title Invictus may be translated from the Latin as undefeated or unconquered, and is the title of a poem by British poet William Ernest Henley. The film was met with positive critical reviews and earned Academy Award nomination for Freeman of Best Actor and Damon for Best Supporting Actor.
And now we're going to speak about two important people of the history of South Africa.
In the early morning of Thursday, 40 February 2013, Pistorius shot and killed South African model Riva Steenkamp, his girlfriend of 3 months, at his home in Pretoria. Pistorius acknowledges that he shot Steenkamp to date and says that he mistook her for an intruder.
Pistorius' trial for murder began at 3 March 2014 in Pretoria. As April 2014, the trial entered its 7 weeks before adjourning until Monday 5 May. Pistorius was the first disabled athlete to participate at the Olympic Games.
Nelson Mandela was a South African anti-apartheid revolutionary, politician, and philanthropist who served as President of South Africa from 1994 to 1999. He was South Africa's first black chief executive and the first elected in a fully representative democratic election. His government focused on dismantling the legacy of apartheid through tackling institutionalist racism, poverty, and inequality, and fostering racial reconciliation.
Politically an African nationalist and democratic socialist, he served as president of the African National Congress from 1991 to 1997. Internationally, Mandela was the Secretary General of the Non-Aligned Movement from 1998 to 1999.
Mandela served 27 years in prison, initially on Robben Island, and later in Portsmouth Prison and Victor Verster Prison. An international campaign lobbied for his release. He was released in 1990 during a time of escalating civil strife. Mandela joined the negotiation with President de Klerk to abolish apartheid and establish multiracial election in 1994, in which he led the ANC to victory and became South Africa's first black president. He published his autobiography in 1995.
During his tenure in the government of national unity, he invented other political parties to join the cabinet. He promulgated a new constitution. He also created the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate past human rights abuse, while continuing the former government's liberal economic policy. His administration also introduced measures to encourage land reform combat poverty, and expand healthcare service.
Internationally, he acted as mediator between Libya and the United Kingdom in the Pan Am Flight 103 bombing trial and oversaw military intervention in Lesotho. He declined to run for a second term and was succeeded by his deputy, Thabo Mbeki.
Mandela was a controversial figure for much of his life. Denounced as communist terrorist by critics, he nevertheless gained international acclaim for his activism, having received more than 2,050 honors, including the Nobel Peace Prize, the US Presidential Medal of Freedom, and the Soviet Order of Lenin. He is held in deep respect within South Africa, where he is often referred to his Xhosa clan name Madiba or as Tata. He is often described as the father of the nation.
Thank you for your attention and see you next week for another English-speaking country. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Ah, blah, 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 blah.
The Aboriginal Khoi people have lived in the region for millennia. Most of the people, however, make integration since indigenous African in South
As well
Africa.
as from slaves from Madagascar.
Okay.
Of racial segregation. And now let's
Let's talk Afrikaans, English, Ndebele, Northern Soto, Swazi, Tswana, Tsonga,
rugby union.
and its administration.
Putain!
During his tenure in the
Attends, il y a un avion, quoi.
1993 Nobel Peace Prize for the medal gained international acclaim for his activity.
Ok, attends. Its first early time, arrête de me regarder, election.
To sanction, but started competing globally. Je voyais que tu voulais rire.
On va dire qu'on parle du cinéma.
Ah ouais.
The title Invictus may be translated
Enfin, un poème, c'est un poème.
Nelson Mandela, who served as president of South Africa. Pourquoi
J'ai
tu
rien
bouges ta
dit.
tête?
From
Mais t'es obligé de dire socialiste.
and promulgated.
Mais non!